The case for ZCash is quite complex because, of course, the price is going up, momentum is positive. We've got all that support by many influencers, by many important people in the space. Yet at the same time, we also see a lot of leverage in the asset, as in people are speculating heavily on ZCash. So is ZCash now overvalued? Can it still go higher? Let's have a look at the data most people are not considering. So here's what I mean. One of the largest players in the space, Galaxy Digital, supported ZCash as the alternative to Bitcoin based on cypherpunk principles. In other words, an asset that cannot be controlled by government. Or have a look at this. The earliest Bitcoin billionaires, the Winklevoss brothers, they also support ZCash. They hold now 150 million worth of it. Over here, this is the most recent news. It's a support by Grayscale, a filing for a ZCash ETF, which can of course bring even more capital into the asset. So all of this looks incredibly positive, right? We've got very nice support, a very nice momentum as well. There's Wall Street adoption potentially very soon. So where could it go wrong? The answer is too much excitement. Sometimes the market is getting ahead of itself. We have seen ZCash close to $600 before. It even reached $700 at the beginning of 2018, the peak of the ICO bubble. Now the price might be at similar levels. The market cap though is much higher now because ZCash is an inflating token. It does have an expanding token supply, like every cryptocurrency basically. But the inflation rate nowadays isn't really that much of a problem. But the point is, the market cap is much, much higher than it has ever been. Here's the market cap chart on a logarithmic scale. So now every horizontal line here is a 10x from one another. So we did get our 10x recently. But just have a look at this potential resistance. Again, it's all about risk versus reward, right? Is this just short-term excitement? Are we going to see again a crash of 80, 90%? Or can we actually break out of this? Can we actually see another 10x, another 10x? Can ZCash potentially replace Bitcoin at some point? Have a look at the ZCash price relative to other altcoins. So that's the others market cap. It's the ratio of ZCash relative to others. And it brings us, if we just hit the old heights, to a potential gain of 150% or so. Which means the market cap of 8 billion would 2.5x. We thus achieve a market cap of 19 billion roughly. Where would this bring ZCash? The answer is a place number 10 among the largest cryptocurrencies. So it would beat Cardano, but it would still be below Dogecoin. That seems to be doable. Why wouldn't ZCash be larger than Cardano, since Cardano doesn't have that much adoption? And what would stop it to beat Dogecoin even? There is a ported version of the ZCash token on the Binance Smart Chain. And we can have a look at the on-chain metrics, how many people hold that token. Unfortunately, we can't do the same analysis for the ZCash chain directly because, again, it's private. But at least we can do this for the derivative and the number of wallets that hold some ZEC on the Binance Smart Chain. It pretty much doubled overnight, or let's say in the last month. If we look at a minimum holding of 2 tokens, so that's $1,000 roughly, then we also saw this growing, but it wasn't a doubling. It was an increase of roughly 50%. If we go another 10x from that, so that's now $10,000 worth of the token, we are just close to the all-time high of July of last year. By the way, if this is not your very first time watching this channel, then feel free to subscribe over here. I publish videos regularly, and when you're subscribed, YouTube is more likely to recommend the videos of this channel again. So the growth is less the larger the holding amount is, at least on-chain, for the Binance Smart Chain. But all of those wallet cohorts are currently buying. Now, what's the catch? Why might ZCash go down? Besides, of course, the high market cap and its previous history of falling when it reached those heights. One potential bearish scenario is a deleveraging event. Because yes, we've got spot trading, so that's here on the Binance with 200 million in the last 24 hours. But on the perpetual futures market, we had more than 6 times that trading volume on Binance. And we've also got Orange X, but it's unclear how reliable that data is. But at least we can compare the 2 Binance numbers, and there it's clear that there's a lot of short-term manipulation, a lot of short-term trading in ZCash as well. If you are bullish on ZCash, it might even make sense to just bet on rising prices on the perpetual futures as opposed to just holding it on the spot market. Because on the spot market, you don't get any interest, but currently the funding rate is negative on the perpetual futures. So the shorts have to pay the longs in order to bet on falling prices. If you're bullish on ZCash and you go into a long position on ZCash, you will get additional funding rates by all the pessimists that are currently betting on falling prices. So being long now on the perpetual futures is a positive bet, as in you do get more than just by holding spot. And on top of that, you can even lever this up if you wanted to, right? It doesn't cost anything. That leverage is for free. You get paid for the leverage. In other words, you can allocate towards ZCash in an even more capital efficient manner. Of course, if you don't believe that we're getting a massive liquidation cascade again, as we saw on the 10th of October. That's always the risk, right? This is where many people got wiped out. Currently, it's mainly the short investors that are getting wiped out in ZCash. And here's the big problem. Here's where I say the market might be going ahead of itself. There's a lot of bets on ZCash. The open interest on the perpetual futures is sky high, and there is correlation between how much bets there are on a certain asset and the spot price. When the spot price is high, then open interest tends to be high as well. This is now open interest. Just have a look at the spot price. Whenever open interest goes down, then spot price tends to go down as well. And so if now people speculate with ZCash less again, if open interest falls, and by the way, it's currently close to $1 billion, then ZCash can very easily drop in price as well. The open interest or the leverage on ZCash has grown much more than the spot price has during the same time period. So really, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of short-term capital in the asset, and that's the big risk. Trading volume is also very elevated, and again, trading volume and spot price also tend to correlate somewhat. If there is less trading volume, if there's less bets, then the spot price will go down with it. Yes, there is a potential for 150% additional gain from here. There's also quite a bit of risk, and that risk has to be managed, right? Potentially with a trailing stop loss, as in if we don't appreciate as quickly anymore as we did in the past, maybe it makes sense to reduce some of the exposure over time. Again, we have to take data points like this seriously. So I'm not telling you to go and sell all your ZCash. I don't have a crystal ball either, but if you made your 10x with ZEC, it might make sense to at least take some chips off the table, simply because there's so much short-term leverage in the price as well. And some volatility in the future is definitely not that unlikely. If you got some value out of this video, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube, or potentially see you also in Premium. This is where I share my own trades. A link to Premium pops up here on the screen. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers.